Hello, everybody. So today, what's been coming through for me this week is to share my story, um, because I've been listening to a few podcasts and webinars, and there's always this bit in the middle where they go, and I struggled for a few years, and then this happened, or I did this magic thing, and then everything fell into place. And that hasn't been my experience, and it hasn't been the experience of a lot of people I know. It's not reality, and I found myself asking, "Tell me about the struggle years. Tell me what worked. Tell me what you were doing. Tell me what didn't work, um, and why you're struggling." So this isn't going to be a huge struggle story. I'm not going to sell you a program at the end of it. And of course, if you do all these right things, then everything will work out for you. I just want to share. And that's the purpose of the practitioner table, is to share and to help you to get a little bit of understanding on what it's really like to be a practitioner full time, so that if you have been in business for a long time, you can hopefully find a little bit of camaraderie. And then if you're starting out, you can get a little bit of reality of what it's going to be like as well. So I've been in clinic for 12 years now. I have gone through a bit of a shift. So when I was in the Northern Beaches, which was up full time up until last year, I was booked out solid with weeks and weeks of waiting lists for 6 days a week. I was working overtime. It was massive, and if I had have asked myself that told myself that 12 years ago, I just would have been so relieved. And now, so I moved town 12 months ago, so I'm starting all up again, and it's been interesting because, again, going from a full-time practice, I have to begin all over again and try things and put myself out there a little bit more. So I can definitely relate to the startup phase again, and I can relate to also what it's like to be in clinic full-time, and it's amazing. I'm so blessed to have had that space, and I hope to get that again. But it's also quite challenging as well in other aspects, as everything is. Everything's got a light side and a dark side. But today's about my journey, really. So I'm a kinesiologist. I studied in Sydney in Hornsby with the College of Complementary Medicine, and then went on to do a Bachelor of Health Science. So when I started, you could graduate and then do your further study from there. So that's what I did. I studied for 2 years and then started clinic and did a Bachelor of Health Science on top of it, or advanced diploma, and then a Bachelor on top of that. So it was about 5 years. So the first 3 years of clinic, I was still studying. So that gave me a little bit of an out as well. But the first 3 years was really tough. Actually, probably the first 7 years. I've got a little note here. 7 years equals hard. It took me 7 years to get full time. And some of that has to do with my age and my experience as well. So I was really young when I started out, and that played a big part in it. I guess also the being young thing, that in the early 20s, meant that I was also a little bit I could do the gung-ho thing, and I could slam myself and put myself into all sorts of situations. But there were still fears there. So I graduated and then started a clinic. So the way I did that was, back in the old days, you didn't have all the social media and the websites and everything else. You literally just got an ABN and a business card and a flyer and rented a space. And I did that, and I rented a space for half a day and I put my flyer everywhere I could. I put my business card everywhere I could. And the clinic I was with, they advertised me a little bit. So every Saturday I would turn up and I would do a little bit of schoolwork, I would meditate, I would freak out, and then I'd go home. But I turned up every day. The thing is that I always wanted to be a kinesiologist. So for me, there was no other fallback plan of career. There was no other option. And I wasn't by anybody else at that stage. So it was always just assumed I'm doing this. I need to make it work. I need to figure out how to make it work. And I think that's what got me through, is I just kept trying to figure out how to make it work. And I never, ever gave up on it. There were times when people were telling me to give up on it, but I just knew it was my path. I just knew. So there was no option. I had to make it survive. And when you have to make something survive, you do it. You do anything that you can to work, and it trumps the fear in a way. Where survival trumps fear. So what did I do? I put out I put out a letter to the local practitioners, and I said, "I'd love to meet you. Let's have coffee." And one of the best things that came out of that very early on, I was only a few weeks in, was a woman met up with me for coffee, and she was a website designer. And soothe.com.au, and she works primarily with natural therapists. And she built me a website, and it was a big deal then to have a one-page website. There were no blogs, there was nothing like that out there at the time. There was no Facebook. There was Facebook, but it wasn't for business. And so I got that set up, and you to a rebrand. So you don't have to get it right off the bat. You just have to do what's right at the time for you. And I think that's really hard nowadays, because I'm seeing so many practitioners come out, and there's so many spaces that they have to be part of. They have to be online, they have to be blogging, they have to do ebooks, they have to be in practice as well, and do the whole sales funnels. And if you do things this way, then it's right. We didn't get flooded with any of that, which was magic in a way, because I had to stumble through things myself. And I learned from things being advertised to me. So that's something that you might want to be aware of as well, is if you're Googling things, or if you're following different groups on Facebook, all that kind of stuff, then you're going to have these things in your face. And sometimes it's really useful, just as education, or even a program or something like that, if you're inclined to. But real life experience with real life people is invaluable, and they don't have to be clinicians or practitioners. So because I had set up with Kat, and I found that the one-on-one thing really, really worked for me, I was Googling and tried to find out where I could meet people, because I was new to the area. So I didn't have a base of people to fall back on. I didn't have a database. I had nothing. And so I started networking. Honestly, the best thing I ever did for my business was network. And that is how I'm rebuilding myself here now as well, is to network. And it doesn't have to be sleazy or anything like that. But I jumped fully in because it was the only way that felt really genuine to me, was to connect to people. And I think I instinctively knew, I don't think it was a conscious choice at the time, was that if people knew me, then they will learn to trust me, and it doesn't, and that's how things will build. And that's exactly what happened. I got so many friends and connections through those years of networking. And at one point, I was going to 2 or 3 networking things a week. We had, I was part of a group called Inspiring Women. That was just this beautiful bunch of women who, and you become friends with them, and you feel connected to these people. So if you can find a genuine networking group in your area, I highly recommend it because you're all on the same page in small business or traders trying to make it work. And you're all there to support each other, and that's what I found. And the connections were invaluable. And you call each other your friends. And so when you go to refer them or they go to refer you, you're actually saying, go and see my friend. And it's coming from a really genuine space. So that Inspiring Women was a big one. And then they had lots of opportunities for business. So the other thing was that I came out and there was no business training whatsoever. And I say this story all the time, is that I didn't even know how to write a receipt. And I called up the college. I was like, I have no idea. So I chucked myself into business training. And look, it was a fumble thing for a while, just trying to read anything that I could. And a lot of it, because I was sole trader in a practitioner, a lot of it didn't apply to me. They were small to medium-sized businesses and, or just talking about employees and stuff like that. So some of it was good, and then the other one was hit and miss. So the other person I got onto around that time was Marie Folio, and she is I don't know how to describe her. She's a business guru, I guess, or coach from the States, but she has this really genuine way of explaining herself, and you can feel in her energy she genuinely wants to help people. So she's got some really great videos, and I was following her before all of her programs and everything. And for me, it was just someone who put out the questions that I was asking, and I could relate to, and find out little tips and techniques and stuff like that as far as mindset was concerned, as far as marketing was concerned. And that's the other thing, marketing. I had no idea how to market myself. So that's, I think, why networking worked really well for me, was that I just could talk to people about what I did. And the other group I went to was BNI, and BNI gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes. And it's quite yang. It's very, very yang, and it's very, structured and all of this kind of stuff. So you do have to find the right BNI group. You can go, I think, to 2 meetings. It's been years and years and years since I went to one. But I think at the time it was 2 meetings free before you had to join anything. And it's just getting to know local business owners, really. And the other part of that was that you had to sit, so you had to turn up each week. And for me, turning up was a big thing. If I felt like if I could just turn up, then things would start to move. And that's how I've always approached business, is to just turn up and try and see what comes. And it's worked for me. So don't hide from it. The moment I start hiding from something, the moment things just start falling apart. So what you had to do in BNI was to come up with a 1-minute spiel about you and your business. And this was really confronting, because you have to try and explain kinesiology or natural therapy to a bunch of solicitors and real estate agents and sign writers and stuff in a minute. And you can literally, when you start explaining kinesiology as terms of muscle testing and those kind of things, that, even homeopathy and that you hold points and stuff, people zone out. And so I had to come up with an engaging way of explaining what I did. So what I ended up doing was talking about things about sessions. So I was, at this point I was seeing maybe 4 clients a week. So this is in my first 3 years. And so the more I networked, the more comfortable I got with what I was doing, and I was able to explain it. And the more I got comfortable just with the whole feeling of being a owner, I guess, and a practitioner of putting myself out there. And it's that gradual thing, if you watch my other videos, that gradual thing of stepping outside of your comfort zone. And so it just started opening this whole, all of these other doorways, which was connection with people, programs that they would have. There was a mentor program, which was invaluable to me. It opened me up to other people holding marketing workshops and things like that. And then it made me feel a part of a community. And the thing with the networking thing where I was is that you're turning up to all these different events and same people. So you're feeling a part of a community. So you're feeling safe and held. And then you start growing this identity. Oh, there's Emma. She's the kinesiologist. And so for me, it was like an ownership of that place. And so that was my first few years. It wasn't I was struggling internally sometimes because I wasn't getting the amount of clients I wanted or needed at that time to financially support myself. So I had other jobs on the side, and I was still studying and everything else. But I was just slowly building my business. And, eventually there was a point where I graduated and I was comfortable in the networking scene and with what I did. And that's when I started writing my newsletters. And this was like a channeling for me of, this is what I struggle with internally, and if I can relate that to you, then hopefully you find information useful. It was my way of trying to explain to people what I did, was explain the insights, I guess, that I would get from my own life. And so I started writing out these newsletters, and that really worked for me as a communication method for people. So I used MailChimp, and I would manually put all of my new clients into my MailChimp list. And I would just send out these newsletters on a sporadic thing. And I could hear, everyone around me was saying, you need to put out a newsletter once or twice a week, and all this kind of stuff. But if something never felt right to me, if it felt salesy or if it felt inauthentic, then I just never did it. And I still don't. I did a video with someone today and it just didn't flow. It didn't feel right. And the information in it was great, but it just felt like we were trying to push something. So we canned it and we said, we'll try again in a few days and see if something else comes through genuinely. So that's the other thing. I had to be patient, and you have to be patient as well, because it takes time. And remember, this is 3 years here that I'm getting to the point of feeling confident in expressing myself, let alone seeing clients in clinic. And I was only seeing 3 clients a day, maybe 2, I think it was 2 days a week. So 6 clients a week in the first 3 years. So I think there's like a general rule of thumb. It's like 3 clients a week, and then 3 clients for the first years, and then 3 clients a day after that. It's a funny little formula that happens, and it's not always like that for everyone. Like that a little bit. So that's 3 years worth of working and struggling and working and struggling. And then I worked for a few years in a clinic and just built stuff up, had another job on the side. Again, I had to pay my rent, and I didn't want to rely everything on. And then I got to a point where I felt like it was starting to be time to branch out of the space I was in. So my partner said to me, look, let's hire this space. And I said, you're crazy. And he said, no, let's do it. I think you can do it. And it was awesome and amazing, and it taught me so much, and it really did build my confidence. I had a space that I could work out of, and I could hold myself in that professionalism. And I jumped onto the NEIS program at that point as well, NEIS, which is the new Entrepreneur Initiative scheme, I think, that the government has. And that's worth looking into as well, because they will take you through a Cert 4 in small business. And if you're lucky, you get a good mentor for a year, and you get paid financially to set up your business for a year, which was really, really good. So I was doing that. And sorry, I'm just going to check if this is being recorded on Facebook. Oh, it's not, I'm sorry. I'll do that at the same time. Here we go. There you go. See, nothing's ever perfect, guys. And so, oh, hang on, here we go. Okay. And so, yeah, I was meant to have that set up beforehand. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to pause this for a second. Okay, sorry about technical malfunction. And this is the thing, you have to own your stuff up sometimes. And people are actually pretty forgiving, I find. Yeah, so, you know, we're humans as well. So I did the NICE program, which is the government mentorship. And that just enabled me to step out into that next space. So I set up my clinic, and I did it on, so if we're talking financials, I did it on credit, which was it was the only choice at that time, but it wasn't a smart move long term. So you can get that financial backing behind you before you branch out. That's a lot smarter, because otherwise, if things struggle or if you need X things, there's nothing else to go on. So I set up my space, and it was beautiful. It was held workshops, and it only held one space at a time. And that was perfect, and it enabled me to bring in other practitioners to practice. And the one big lesson I learned from that one is that practitioners usually hate business, and they usually hate marketing themselves. And coming from like an Aries gung-ho, you know, I'm confident in business now, and I'm confident in what I'm doing, and I just need more clients, and I just need to keep going. It was a bit to the face that, you know, people were not really honouring their gift enough to just hold it and push it forward. And so my biggest struggle at that point was to get other practitioners in, and to use the space when I wasn't there. And because I was set up that they had to market themselves, they had to hold their own reception, all of that kind of stuff. It had to attract practitioners who were really interested in building their business, and who were willing to go through the fears in order to build their business, which is more frequent nowadays, I find, than it was back then. So this was in around 2010. I've got here. So 2010 I did that. And then, so I did that for a few years. So what I was doing, I was working in clinic, I was renting out the space, and I think I was working another job at that point as well. I was working with autism at that point, that's right. And nannying had finished by then, yeah. So sorry, I was working to support myself as well, but it was learning at the same time. And I was doing lots of networking still. And then I got to a point where that wasn't really generating what I wanted to anymore. And so I focused on holding workshops for the public. And this is just the next thing to come out of it. It was the genuine, authentic, partnering with someone, saying, yes, we were inspired. And when you're inspired by something, when you have an idea and you really feel like that channeled energy is there, then you push through all the blocks. Whether it's, you know, we had no idea how to hold a workshop. We had no idea how to promote a workshop. So we had to figure it out along the way. And if you're coming from an inspired place, then you do that, and you have an idea and you hold it through and you birth the idea. And so you learn the things that you need to learn along the way. And that for me has been the easiest way. Every time someone has said, oh, you should be doing this for the reason of it will just make you more money, or it's the way that things are the most profitable, or the way that everyone else is doing it, I could just never throw myself into it. I had to have the idea first, and then figure out it, basically. And I felt like this is where, when the practitioners I was trying to pull the practitioners into my clinic, they didn't want to do any of that themselves. They didn't want to figure things out for themselves. They didn't want to start from the beginning and have to learn again. And I think partly was my age that enabled me to be able to do that. I had no kids at that stage, so it was easier. And I could dedicate time and space into learning things, and energy into learning things. And, in your 20s, you can afford to be a little bit more vulnerable that way. And so I was just frustrated as a whole of trying to build other people's businesses up, and then trying to get my own clients in and spreading my energy everywhere. But at the same time, I was really, really inspired, and I was teaching workshops, and I was growing more confidence in what I was doing, and I was starting to do the intuitive work a little bit more, and I was connecting with like-minded people. And, so at all times I had this yin and yang going in my business. And I wasn't full-time yet. And I think that was my big bugbear at the time, was I just want to finish up working for someone else in order to give my practice my everything. So I did that, and I chucked myself completely in. And I fell pregnant, which was beautiful and planned and everything else. It's just, that whole fertile energy came through. And I was in a space where I had this clinic, I was having this baby, I was trying to bring practitioners in who were just as interested in their businesses as I was. And it just wasn't sustainable long term. So I had Kobe and decided to shut that clinic space down a bit, just to pull back all my energy again, rather than trying to hold everything. So that was really hard at the time, because it was a big ego thing. That was my clinic space, and then I had big dreams of how that was going to turn out, and adding more rooms to it, and being able to hold other practitioners in that eventually. And it was such a beautiful space. I was so proud of it every time I walked in. And it was interesting, the day that I left, I pulled all my furniture out and I pulled everything off the wall, and the only thought in my head was, it's just a space. I bring me with me. And it was so true. In that moment, I had no attachment to the space at all, and I knew that I'd do it again someday. And it was interesting. And then I really downsized. I found this tiny room at the back of a chiro clinic. I didn't have a reception space, but it was mine, and it worked, and it was functional. It was around the corner from my home, and it was the right price, and I felt surrounded by people again, which was really nice as well. And the people who were working in practice space. So I had downsized so much that I took all the pressure off myself, and that's when things really started to grow. And I was working at that time still. I think I picked up another job within all of that time. So sorry, when I felt, just before I fell pregnant, I'd picked up another job. So I'd cut something off and then decided to pick something else up. And it was at this point that I downsized everything, that I could afford to let go of my other job commitments and focus on being a mum too, but the clinic as well. And again, with no pressure, I'd spent years and years and years. So this was in 2014. So this is the 7-year mark, and things started to get easier from there. So 7 years, guys, of learning and building and struggling and trying new things and gaining confidence and gaining inspiration and gaining connections and feeling my community and support team grow behind me. And so it was at the 7-year mark that things just started flowing. It was like all the work that I had done for the 7 years before propelled me into the next section. And I built up my newsletter list, and I built up my name in the area from just having so much contact with people. And I was super confident in the way that I spoke about it. I was inspired, and I knew that, from trial and error before, that I could have an idea and run with it and learn about things. And this was the time that the online world opened up as well. So I was trying to figure out all of that side. We hadn't gone into the ebook era then, or the sales funnels era, but it was, you had to blog and stuff as well. So, but I found my groove with that and just started doing what I could when I felt inspired, and didn't push. Every time I tried to push it, I'd struggle with energy and life, and it wasn't until I felt really inspired to bring something out that I could push through those blocks and flow with that. And then the other side of things was that financially I had to solely survive on clinic now. And that puts you in a different space, because you don't, again, as I said at the beginning, you don't have the opportunity to fuss about too much or to flail about, because you have to survive. And so you put yourself in situations that don't feel entirely comfortable, but you know that you have to do to get to where you want to go. And so you learn things, and you talk to people about things, and you find people who've been through it before, and you just get it out there. You learn and you fumble through when you have to survive. And so, that whole build-up of things enabled me to then bring my practice into full-time work. And it was around that time that Tim was able to then finish working himself, and I could support the family financially so that he could be at home with Kobe. I could follow my inspiration and my passion and my enjoyment, and bring my clinic out into the world. And, from then on, it just got easier and easier and easier and easier. And the more confidence, the more I let things flow, the more I was able to go, okay, I want that. I can learn that. I don't know it yet. I've tried it before. You get comfortable with things over the years. And then, you can go out into different spaces and bring your inspiration and your channeled ideas out into the world. And there are lots of things out there I haven't tried yet. I've still got podcasting to learn, and I've got ideas, and it's, but again, it's not that inspired time yet for me. So I haven't learned how to do that exactly yet. I've just started on the ebook journey, but again, it's something that's been sitting in me wanting to come out. And so now it's time to come out. And I'm doing courses online. And again, that's something that I've had to learn. And I've had to put lots of time and energy into figuring out how it all works. But again, I'm so inspired by bringing it out that I just learn it. And trying to keep away from all the sales funnel-y stuff. Like, you should be one-on-one in practice and have an online business at the same time, and everything else. It doesn't flow like that. And if you are that person that can do all of that, amazing. Please let me know, because I'd love to talk to you. But for most of us, it doesn't happen that way. And we've got lives, and we've got families, and we've got other jobs, and we've got the vulnerabilities inside and everything else. So just work on what inspires you first, and start connecting with people. Start building your identity as a practitioner first, before you then have to take all these other steps. And if you're at the point in your business where you're ready to turn it into the online section, give yourself time and space to follow the inspired idea first, and learn things, and just build up all your education, and then birth it out into the world. And you're probably going to fail at, start something and fail at it, and leave all these trails of websites and stuff behind you. And that's really, really normal from everyone that I've spoken to in that space. And I have all those things as well. All these little business ideas and online things that never really eventuated into anything. It's actually how the practitioner table started. It was this online little stuff at the background that was kind of starting to form through, and it took a few years for it to come through fully. And now I'm ready to take it into the next stages. And I've got the membership coming up soon, so I'm in that process of learning about how all of that works, so that I'm ready to launch it for you guys. And that's, again, my inspired idea with that is I've been really wanting to hold a community of practitioners, so that, like I opened my space in 2010, and I was trying to find practitioners, and everyone was just not really committed to their gift, or that it was so overwhelming in the business and the marketing side that it shut down their ability to bring their gift forth. It really sucks to see that. It really, really sucks to see that. And so I'm so inspired by that learning all the membership stuff and how to put it online and all the platforms and blah, 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 that's just secondary. And so, this is my story, and that's how I got to full-time clinic. And now I'm starting off again. And, I've got a couple of full days booked in, and then I've got sporadic days. And so it just ebbs and flows. And when I go to Sydney I've still got that clinic, and that's amazingly busy. And I'm lucky enough that I can open up however long I want, however many spaces as I want, and I get them filled. But again, that's 12 years in the one spot, to have that name, and to have that reputation, and to have those connections. And I think because I've always done things from the heart and always genuine, I screw up. I didn't put this on my Facebook for half of it, but I'll record it and I'll post it out to everybody. But it's, again, if you screw up, you take another step forward and you keep going, because you're inspired by your own gift. And I think that's a pretty good place to end it. But if you have any questions, or if you want me to expand on anything, please let me know. I'm sure when the next channel thing comes through, I'll open up another video and do another recording, hopefully live from Facebook in the beginning. But yeah, thank you so much, practitioners, and share it with as many people as you want. I'll send it out in an email as well. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Mwah! Bye, guys.